The war in Ukraine continues. More Russian reservists are being called to fight now, while others are just trying to flee.
This as Vladimir Putin grants Russian citizenship to a former U.S. security contractor. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington. And Bree, there are several layers to this story.
That's right. Good morning, Maureen, Dave. Well, there's growing resistance to Russian President Vladimir Putin's efforts to mobilize 300,000 more men to fight against Ukraine. And there's also growing concern that Russia may seek to escalate the conflict. There's growing backlash to Russian President Vladimir Putin's order to call up 300,000 more troops after Russia lost large swaths of territory to a Ukrainian counteroffensive. Intelligence experts say the mobilization effort is a sign of desperation.
I think Putin is feeling increasingly cornered, which is a worrisome development because as a cornered rat, he may opt for taking some steps that he would prefer to avoid.
There are now concerns that resistance to Putin's order to send reservists to the front lines is growing violent. A young man shot a Russian military officer at close range at an enlistment office Monday. According to local media reports, the suspect was shouting, "No one will go to fight." While some military-age men are fleeing Russia to avoid being drafted, others have gone missing.
They go missing, right? Like, they just drag them out of their homes and take them somewhere.
The White House is committing to help people leave Russia if necessary, and warning of catastrophic consequences if Putin turns to nuclear weapons.
The consequences of nuclear use would be disastrous for Russia and the world, and Russia would be a pariah on the world stage.
Meanwhile, Edward Snowden, a former security contractor wanted in the U.S., accused of espionage, was granted Russian citizenship.
Perhaps the only thing that has changed is that as a result of his Russian citizenship, apparently now he may well be conscripted to fight in Russia's war in Ukraine.
But there's speculation as to whether Snowden gets drafted to fight in Russia's army. And after 7 months of war, there's little sign the end of this conflict is in sight. Maureen?
Bree, you mentioned speculation on whether Edward Snowden gets swept up in Putin's troop mobilization. Is that a real possibility?
Yeah, well, Maureen, the State Department says now that Edward Snowden is a Russian citizen, there's a chance that he could be called up to the Russian army, but Snowden's lawyer says that it's not possible because he did not previously serve in the Russian army. But at this point, we do have to wait and see what happens. But ever since then, Edward Snowden has been very active on Twitter talking about his citizenship.
It's very interesting. All right, Bree Jackson live for us in Washington, D.C. for us this morning. Thank you so much.